Hey YouTube, this is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and we've got your Dynasty running back rankings for this upcoming season, and of course, giving you some information that will help you with your startups, or again, maybe some trades that you want to do to get your team ready for your Dynasty, whether you're rebuilding or if you're, of course, trying to win now. Again, these are my top 24 players. The reason I put 24 is because typically you have 2 running backs on your team and most people play in a 12-man league. So I want to make this pretty simple with you guys. And again, base everything off of a 12-man league. My number 1 player that as far as Dynasty goes in running back is going to be Bijan Robinson. You guys may disagree. I understand. He has not stepped on the field yet. It's all based off the talent and what he's able to bring to this Atlanta offense that I think is going to be fantastic for them. But his talents is just so generational at this point. I think, again, think early SAQUON, early Ezekiel Elliott, like those type of players. This is where I think he's going to be a standout, even though he is going to be sharing the backfield with Tyler Algier, which is obviously going to hinder him a little bit. I don't think that hurts him at all. I think this actually allows him to have a 200 to 250 carry type of season, 30 to 40 receptions on the ground, out in the pass, and allow Algier to also help alleviate some of that pressure, giving him I think, a more longevity type of career than, say, a SAQUON who was just thrusted into it, Ezekiel who was thrusted into it, who just got pounded left and right in their early career, that are starting to see that, obviously, now that they're a little bit older. So I don't think this is a bad thing with Algier. His talent is amazing. I like Bijan, again, at number 1 as far as my Dynasty rankings go. I think his talent is just too good right now to not draft him if you're doing a startup. Now, my second running back is Jonathan Taylor. I still love what he can do. I understand last year he was hurt. I get that I think everyone just forgot that what he did the year before. Minus the injury last year, Jonathan Taylor's still one of the best running backs in this game. Okay? We'll see how this plays out with Anthony Richardson at quarterback. I think that's actually going to help him a lot. But Jonathan Taylor is still a big playability. He can receive the ball well. And again, with a new head coach, new quarterback, the offensive line still together, even though they didn't perform well, is still one of the better ones. I like Jonathan Taylor a lot. Number 3, I've got Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey could have been number 2. I think part of it's just his age. That's why I didn't put him up there. And of course, he's had some past injuries. He obviously played healthy last season, which was great. But with that said, getting traded to the 49ers was a blessing for him. Shanahan does a great job putting his playmakers in the best position and has a good offensive line in front of him that is just fantastic. Plus, you got weapons to deal with like Deebo Samuel. You got Kittle. You've got Ayuk. Like, there's so many weapons on this 49ers offense that Christian does not have to be the only guy like he did in Carolina. Obviously, the quarterback position is something that's got to be figured out with the injury to Purdy. Obviously, Lance had an injury. So there's still some uncertainty there. Heck, even Sam Darnold may end up being the quarterback. But I like Christian McCaffrey as my number 3 running back into Dynasty. Number 4, I've got Kenneth Walker. What isn't there to love about K9? Like, Kenneth Walker is just, I loved him going into the season last year. He was my number 1. I know a lot of people love BREECE Hall. Don't get me wrong. We'll talk about BREECE Hall. But I liked what Kenneth Walker was able to do. He showed lots of promise in his rookie year. I had him, again, as my top back last year. I still believe he's got the ability to be that. His size and explosiveness behind his blockers is great, and a great offense that focuses mostly on the run for Seattle. This is definitely a plus for him. Seattle let Penny go. Obviously, Charbonnet's there now, and we'll see how that plays out in that. But Walker's still really going to be the guy. I'd like to see him involved more in the passing game. He did a good job. He had 9 touchdowns last season. He finished RB18 in PPR, and that was with 6 games either missing or he really was under 50% snap share. So, again, I think that's only going to improve. Number 5, I do have BREECE Hall. BREECE Hall, I think, is going to be, he could possibly sneak up on this list, but I have him at number 5. Before his injury, he was averaging RB15 in PPR. There were 2 games he finished with 20-plus points. He averaged 5.7 yards a carry and had 5 touchdowns in those 7 games. BREECE was very explosive. He showed a lot of great receiving skill set. He's now on an offense that has Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Plus, you still got, obviously, Garrett Wilson on the outside. Corey Davis, who's another good receiver that I think a lot of people forget about. I love what this team is going to be able to do and provide. You got Lazard. I mean, there's a lot of options for this team. They're going to rely on him. I think I know Aaron Rodgers is going to obviously, everyone's thinking pass, but I think Breece Hall is definitely going to be still utilized a big amount in this game. Even though he's coming back from ACL, and I get that, I still think long-term in Dynasty, he's an absolute beast in this game. I love what's going to happen with the New York Jets, and actually for what Breece Hall is going to bring. Number 6, I got SAQUON Barkley. Previous injuries and ages, the only reason I have him a little bit lower on this list. Again, you gotta count those factors in. And then, of course, there's the whole contract situation with him and the New York Giants. We don't know what's going to happen with that. Traditionally, running backs who hit the age of 26 or more start to see their decline in mortality. So that's my concern with him. I still have a lot of optimism with Barkley just because he hasn't been, I guess, worn out completely because he did have some seasons where he didn't play a full season just due to injury. But I still like him here at number 6. Last year kind of showed what he can do. He was averaging 17 points a game. That's the type of running back I believe he can still be. He finished RB5 last season. He has great hands, his vision. He's a vital piece to this offense. They just got to sign him. I understand the hesitation. But he's on that franchise tag. He's got a lot to prove this season. We'll see how that goes. But I still think he's a good Dynasty worth at number 6. Number 7, I got JAHMYR GIBBS, another rookie on the Dynasty list. I get it. But at first, I didn't like where he went with Detroit. But then with them letting Swift go, I understand Montgomery's still there. But with GIBBS, I think this is going to be a talent that, again, very similar skill set to KAMARA, but I think even better. And this is where I think why I have him so high. In most rookie drafts, I'm seeing him being drafted the 3rd or 4th. Even in Superflex, as amazing as that sounds, I think some of the quarterbacks some people are kind of hesitant on. But I like what I see in GIBBS. I think he's going to be very good for this Detroit offense. He's only going to be, again, a piece that's going to be part of something bigger in Detroit, but I like JAHMYR GIBBS at number 7. Number 8, I got Travis Etienne. Had flashes of brilliance last year, showed top 10 potential, right? My concern really for him is just being in the offense under Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson's a quarterback-friendly offense. They love to pass the ball. Not so much for the running back play. In 8 games, Etienne only saw 10 carries or less. 10 carries or less in 8 games. That's ridiculous, right? On top of that, he only saw about 2.5 targets his way. So the fact he's not being involved, I understand if you're getting 10, maybe 9 carries, but you're getting 5 to 6 catches. That's different, but you're not. In a PPR league, this is not enough to really make him in the top 10, but I still have him in top 8 because of his potential, because of his talent. And maybe we'll see that change, right? When he was given the ball 20 more times in the season, he was at RB8. So again, just give him the ball. He can be that type of guy. We'll see how this plays out for Jacksonville, but I like him at number 8. Number 9, I got Tony Pollard. Obviously, the ankle injury, breaking his leg in the playoffs was not a good look, but he should come back healthy. Pollard was finally given the chance to really be the RB1 for Dallas. I know Zeke Elliott obviously was there, but Zeke is now still gone. At this point, we'll see if he comes back, but he's at this point gone. Pollard really didn't get a lot of competition. Like, look at what Dallas added. Deuce Vaughn, I like him, but he's a very similar skill set, a little bit smaller, but similar skill set. He had 32 points in fantasy last season. Pollard had 12 touchdowns combined, over 5 yards a carry. And again, I'm not too concerned with the injury. His youth is still a big factor, why I have him at number 9 in Dynasty. And again, I'm curious how Dallas is going to use him, but I like him at number 9. Number 10, I got Austin Ekeler, one of the old guys. Just pay this man. Like, I understand his age. I understand paying a running back is always hard for a team to do. I get it because there's not a long really life for a running back in this league. But Ekeler has just been amazing for the Chargers. And if you've had him in the last 2 years in fantasy, I mean, he was RB1, RB2 the last 2 years. He's a touchdown machine. He sees plenty of passes his way. And I know some of it has to do with the fact that, Keenan Allen's been hurt or Mike Williams has been hurt. And I get he's 27 years old. I understand the commitment hesitation for the Chargers, but you got to get Ekeler in there. I still think, especially if in startup, it's a little bit harder to grab Ekeler at this stage. But if you're going to win now, Ekeler is definitely somebody you want to grab, even though there's a whole contract situation going on. But I like him there. Number 11, I got Nick Chubb. There's just no love for Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is one of the most underrated running backs in fantasy. Every year he's drafted lower than where he should. He always finishes better than where his ADP is. And I don't understand it. People keep lowering him in Dynasty. And I should. And even my own craziness here, I should have Nick Chubb higher. But I don't. I understand there's a lot of youth in front of him, which is why I have him a little bit lower. But The only reason I have him on outside of the top 10 is just due to his age. His talent and what he brings to Cleveland has been great. Finishing RB6 the past season, averaging 16 points a game, still averaging over 5 yards a carry, even where he is in his life, in his career, and seeing almost double-digit touchdowns a season. Now, Hunt is gone officially from Cleveland. He's not going to get re-signed. Obviously, I like Ford. He's a nice little backup. But this is Nick Chubb's team. And now you got a full offseason with Deshaun Watson, which I think is only going to help because now Deshaun's finally kind of settled into this Cleveland offense. So I like this for Nick Chubb a lot. Number 12, Rhamondre Stevenson. The man is a beast. Was it one of my sleeper picks last year, especially in redraft, and definitely a buy you should have grabbed as well. New England used him properly and did not disappoint at all. He finished RB7, being one of the top receiving backs in the game. He saw almost 90 targets and is very efficient. Now, he did struggle towards the end of the season, only cracking top 10 in points twice the last 8 games. So that was a little bit of concern. I think that's just that whole offense in general. Previous 9 games, he finished RB10 or better 5 times. The offense struggled, and it really, really showed. And again, now that you've got more of an offensive-minded quarterback coach and offensive coordinator, I think it's going to help, obviously, Mac Jones and Rhamondre Stevenson. And, yeah, I understand they signed James Robinson, but they didn't really bring anybody else in to compete with Stevenson. So there's nothing really that I'm concerned with as far as Stevenson losing, right? Any type of carries or touches. So I like Rhamondre Stevenson, number 12. Number 13, I got Javonte Williams. Injury is his biggest issue. His youth and talent obviously gets him close to the top 10 in Dynasty. Where I would hold him back is really just the injury. So many uncertainties. There's obviously a pretty gruesome injury that he had last season. I expect a later start this upcoming season. And I know a lot of people expect him early. There's so many contradictions in the story of what's going on with his injury. And they also grabbed Perine, who I think is actually going to be involved heavily in this offense. I like what Perine did for Cincinnati last year. I think he's going to be another avenue. And again, you got Sean Payton, right? Sean Payton's absolutely going to try to evolve and get Russell Wilson back into it. And under Sean Payton, for example, you have Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara never had a 1,000-yard rushing season at all. So, he did very well in the receiving game, and obviously Javonte Williams can do that. But I think this is going to be a type of season where they had Ingram and Kamara, you've got Perine and Javonte. And I think that's just how it's going to be played out. Number 14, I got Najee Harris. Najee is a back that no one loves, but he brings a lot of consistency as far as fantasy terms go. He does have some concerns, right? One thing that I have with Najee Harris is he's not very efficient on the ground. He's got great size. He does have some ability. Again, his receiving aspect changed last year with Pickett at quarterback instead of when Big Ben was there. But again, the concern that I have is he's averaging under 4 yards a carry. The lack of receptions is a concern. They've got a lot of weapons on the outside with Pickens, Deontay Johnson, right? You've got some good weapons there. Freiermuth, now you got the rookie Darnell Washington. My concern with Najee is he is a consistent back when it comes to, because he's going to get a lot of touches. He's going to get those touchdowns at the red zone. He did finish for RB14 last year. Again, a low RB2, high RB2 running back, potential low RB1. But if the Steelers were to draft a running back next season, Najee's done at that point. So we'll see how this goes, but I still have him kind of in the middle of this ranking just because of what he can bring to at least this year. But I do have some concerns with him. Josh Jacobs, I have at number 15. Now, I'm not going to say he's a one-hit wonder. He did play his heart out last season due to his contract year. And I'm hoping that's not because of that, because that obviously will really hurt you now in fantasy. Again, he got his contract. He's back to Las Vegas. I think he's still going to be able to bring a lot to this team. There are definitely some big changes at quarterbacks with Jimmy G there, and we'll see how this plays out. I do expect, again, the offense to kind of run through Josh Jacobs and using Jimmy G's ability to kind of just manage the game, because I don't think he's a great quarterback, but he's there. And I also do expect the Raiders to use Zamir White. I know a lot of people forgot about him, but I do think he's going to be utilized a little bit more. But again, Josh Jacobs, he's somebody I don't forget about. A lot of people just tend to never talk about him at all in fantasy. I liked him last year. I like him again this year. I think he's going to be a good running back. I think top 12 or so, I think easily. I think he's a nice RB1 in your team. But I just don't have him higher because I'm not sure how he's going to play with this whole new offense. And just, again, anytime players get these contracts, sometimes they don't show up. So we'll see how things go. Number 16, Dameon Pierce. I'm a little higher in Pierce than most others are. I know Singletary was added. Pierce shows promises in the games he played. He had moments where was a dominant back, averaging over 5 yards a carry. Was starting to see about 4 to 5 targets his way in the receiving game. Now, he didn't play the last 4 games last year due to his ankle injury. I know Singletary does worry a lot of people because of what he can do, but Singletary didn't show up enough even in Buffalo, which was a pretty good offense. I don't know how much he can take away from DAMEON. I do like that with the new head coach, with D'Amico Ryans in. He's a defensive-minded head coach. He is also a coach that is going to absolutely run the ball, whether it be using both backs or more DAMEON. I'm hoping more DAMEON. And they're going to try to obviously ease their rookie quarterback in. So, again, Pierce has a good skill set. I loved him last season. I was really high on him last season, and I think he's going to be even better this year. Number 17, I got DeAndre Swift. Man, I was probably one of the few biggest Swift believers in the world, and unfortunately, I'm starting to lose faith in him. I had him high last year in Dynasty rankings, a little too high, I believe. His injuries are definitely something that's absolutely hurting him. It's hindering his ability. His talent is obviously there, but it's just because he can't stay on the field, there's no point at that point. I don't care how talented you are. If you can't be on the field, there's nothing that you're going to be able to do. Plus, getting traded to a Philly team that loves running the ball, I think, does give me some hope. But they still have Rashad Penny he's got to compete with. You still have Jalen Hurts, who obviously is a goal line machine. I think they may take some of that back and allow Penny and Swift to kind of take over. But last year, even when Swift was playing, the goal line work didn't go to him. It all went to Jamal Williams. So I do worry about that. He's going to be too receiving dependent. He's not going to get the touchdowns that we hope. But I still have a little bit of hope. I'm still a little bit of a Swift believer, so I'm keeping him at number 17. Number 18, I got Aaron Jones. Every year, Aaron Jones is never thought of as a top fantasy back. Every year. Especially with A.J. Dillon, obviously waiting in the wings. But in the last 5 years, he's been a top 10 back, finishing 9th last season. That was even with A.J. Dillon being more and more involved in the offense. Losing Aaron Rodgers does worry some a little bit just because we don't know how Jordan Love's going to be, but I think he's going to do okay. But I still believe Jones is going to be a top 15 fantasy back at least in the next 2 years. I know his age is definitely a big concern, and obviously A.J. Dillon is going to slowly creep in there even more, but I still like Aaron Jones. At number 19, I've got Dalvin Cook. Cook hasn't been as efficient, but he still 4.4 yards a carry. It's not horrible. Now, he did play a full season, which he hasn't done in years past, which was great. Plus, the Vikings, unfortunately, just don't feel like bringing him the money that he was obviously owed. So we'll see how this whole offseason plays out. Is he getting traded? Is he getting re-signed? We don't know what's going to happen. Is he going to get cut? There's a lot of factors in there. But with all that said, I still think he's going to be somebody that if you are a contender in your Dynasty League, you're absolutely going after him, right? Especially if he gets released or traded to a team that I think could be a Super Bowl contender. We'll see where he goes. I think he's going to only add value. Again, my only concern is his age and where he ends up going. Dalvin Cook has been pretty good. Pretty good. But he hasn't been the top 10 back that I think a lot of people wish he had. So I think a lot of people are obviously concerned with him, which is why I have him lower on my Dynasty. I think in redraft, I'd probably have him a little bit higher, but there's still so much to be concerned with as far as where he's going to end up landing. But again, Dalvin Cook is somebody who can catch the ball. He finally played a full season. His health is obviously still a concern because he doesn't always play a full season, but I still like him at number 19. Number 20, I got Cam Akers. Akers is still relying on his talent upside, which is what makes him a relevant top 20 back. He's shown flashes of being a game changer for really this Rams offense. I know there was a whole dispute early in the season last year, but the last 6 games of last season, he averaged 17.5 points a game. Los Angeles finally used him as a workhorse, and I hope they continue to do that. I know his injuries definitely concerns a lot of people. Akers showed some flashes in 2020, especially in the playoffs that year. But again, his injuries. Now, the reason why I still have him ranked pretty high at top 20 is because there's a lack of competition, right? You got Kyren Williams, sure, but there's not a lot to compete with that's going to stop Cam Akers from being the guy. And I'm hoping that he does become the guy because he does have some talent. As long as he stays healthy, he can be a really good RB1, high RB2. So I like him number 20. Number 21, I got Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders did really, really well last season, but a lot of it was reliant on probably 3 or 4 really big games that helped inflate his numbers to make him a good running back last season. There were a lot of times Miles Sanders did not show up at all, whether it be the receiving game, whether it be the rushing game. And again, unfortunately, due to that team, Jalen Hurts really took over the red zone. So Miles Sanders wasn't utilized a lot as we would hope. Now going to Carolina, I do think he's going to get utilized a lot more, just because, again, you're still going to have a rookie quarterback, or Dalton. We'll see how that goes. You're going to use him. There's not a lot of weapons in the Carolina team, but you still have Chuba Hubbard that's going to obviously get some carries for him. I'm just not completely sold on Miles Sanders. I'm probably one of the few people that still don't believe in what he can do. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 back at all. I think, again, he's in this perfect range of being in a top 15 to 20 back, get you some points, get you a nice game here or there to help you win a week or two. But again, that's kind of where I stand with Miles Sanders. Number 22, I got Derrick Henry. If Derrick Henry was still in his 22 to 23 range, man, he'd be in number 1. But Derrick Henry, unfortunately, is 29 years old. The injury, obviously, last year was a concern, and the age is definitely a big concern. On top of that, the Tennessee Titans are not a team that I think is going to be around playoff time, right? So with that said, Derrick Henry could be traded this possible offseason. I think he's going to be more likely to be traded before the trade deadline. And during the season, there's obviously a lack of offensive firepower, really. You got Burks, sure. Tannehill's not a great quarterback at this point. I don't know what's going on with him. The offense is just absolutely struggling. So in Derrick Henry's case, he needs to go to another team. If he could be healthy, he's a top 5 back easily. His talent is just by far amazing. And I'm hoping he goes to a team that, again, gets traded to a team that's contending, needs to have a running back. And I think he's still going to be valuable for you. As far as startup goes, Derrick Henry's not somebody I'm going after. If he happens to follow me late, sure. If you're already established, but you're looking to add some running backs, Derrick Henry is definitely someone you're going to sell if you're rebuilding. And of course, buying if you're someone who's winning now. So again, I still have him up in the top 24, but man, does his age and injury in this offense really concern me. Number 23, I got Alvin Kamara. Kamara's talent has definitely been very good in fantasy. He's been one of the best PPR backs in the game. He has never reached 1,000 yards rushing, which is crazy to me. But he looked really slow last year. The offense looked pathetic, even with the addition of Derek Carr and Olave, and you got some good weapons. Michael Thomas hopefully is back. I think adding Kendre Miller actually is going to really hurt Kamara. And then, of course, there's a whole legalist aspect, right? We still don't know what's going on with that issue of what he did in Las Vegas. We're not sure if he's even going to play. And I think, honestly, Kendre Miller ends up being the guy you really want to have on the Saints running backfield, just because I like what he was able to do. If you saw any of my rookie rankings before they were drafted, I liked him a lot. And I think with his ability, I think Kendre Miller ends up being more and more established, where I think Kamara kind of takes a step back. So Kamara is definitely someone you got to sell him if you can. If you're going to win now, maybe keep him around as a nice RB3. I don't see him really any higher than that, even though I have him at 23 right here, just because his talent is still so good. Number 24, Rachaad White, my last running back here. Now, I was high on Rachaad White last year. I'm a little less high on Rachaad White because he was very inefficient last season. And I know he obviously wasn't the most consistent back with the fact that Leonard Fournette was in and out. There was a lot of going on with the whole Tampa offense. But when he did touch the ball and he ran the ball, he was very inefficient. And I'm hoping that improves. We'll see. The offensive line is going to get better for Tampa. But with Baker Mayfield at quarterback, I'm not sure how this offense is really going to play out, right? Like, no one's expecting a lot out of Tampa, even though they still have good weapons on the outside with Godwin, Keenan Allen. I still like Rachaad White, don't get me wrong, so I have him on this list. But he's definitely somebody that I'm not as high as I once was. He's definitely worth a grab if you can get him at a cheap price. He's going to be a little bit harder to sell. I think some people don't want to sell him quite yet just because of what his potential is. But he's definitely somebody I'm considering of buying if I can get him at a cheap price. I wouldn't waste a first-round pick. I wouldn't, again, just think logically, please. Stop it, okay? But I definitely would try to grab him if I can. He's a nice little flex play. I'm not quite putting him in the RB2 yet, even though I have him in my Dynasty as RB2. But I think he's somebody you definitely want to grab. I just want to see his efficiency go up. I want to see him involved more in the passing game. He doesn't have a whole lot of competition in that backfield, so I do expect a lot out of him, but we'll see how things play out. So those are my top 24 Dynasty rankings as far as quarterbacks go. Again, this could be based off of startup. It can be based off of who you're trying to buy or sell. These are guys that I believe are going to be phenomenal for your team in this ranking. Of course, if you guys agree or disagree, hit me in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your guys' point of view of where you think some of these players should be or shouldn't be. Or if there's players I didn't mention on here, like I'll say it, Joe Mixon. I know I didn't mention him. Just let me know, and I may adjust some of these rankings. These are always going to be very fluid and changing all the time when it comes to Dynasty. If you guys did enjoy the content, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you guys like the button as well. Smash it down there. Of course, we have other great videos out there as well. We'll be doing mock drafts. And then soon we're going to start doing some redraft content to get you guys ready for the redraft season. Football is getting closer and closer. So again, make sure you guys are ready for that. Again, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button. I'll check you guys out next time.